Just by way of introduction, my name is Gameli Adzaho, and like Zach, I'm highly passionate about education. I'm really interested in working with young people, particularly in the area of capacity building. How do you empower the next generation to build their skills and capacities so that they can be able to solve the problems that we face in our world, and at the same time, take advantage of the opportunities before them to build a successful life. I didn't go to Armed Forces Senior High School. I went to Keta Secondary School, Keta School in the Volta region. But then I am, like I said before, I'm highly interested in education because I've also worked as a teacher, teaching science at the high school level for some years. And so that really makes me happy and honored to have the opportunity to be part of today's program. Basically, in terms of my own background, I was educated in University of Ghana. I studied biochemistry. I also went on to specialize in environment and health. Currently, I work as a program manager for the Africa region at a startup called Just One Giant Lab. And basically, what we are interested in is creating this platform where people who want to solve problems can join, create their projects on the platform, and connect with like-minded people from around the world to address these problems. I also lead a youth-oriented organization called Global Lab Network. It's on the basis of Global Lab Network that I was invited to join today's session. And part of what we call Africa Open Science and Hardware. And also, I was a research fellow at the Weizenbaum Institute in Germany, where we do research on the connections between digital technologies like the internet and society. Just to give a little bit of introduction about my organization, Global Lab Network, we are focused on connecting people like students, scientists, technologists, to bring them together for participatory problem solving. So we have three main philosophies, which is learning, friendship, and service. And so in today's presentation, I will be emphasizing a lot on these three things because I think that they are also crucial to helping us to become competent problem solvers. One of the people I admire most is Mrs. Lucy Quist. And so almost every time I have the opportunity to make a presentations like this, I bring up this quote from her. And the reason why this quote is important in the context of our conversation on leadership and problem solving is the fact that in the context of our conversation on creativity and problem solving is the fact that leadership is crucial. Without leadership, we will not be able to solve all the problems that we have in Ghana, or we may not even be able to improve the lives of ourselves and our communities. So leadership is crucial, and it's important not just to think of leadership in terms of developing yourself as an individual, but developing a community around you so that we can collectively address the issues. So there are two really interesting young people, one from Kenya and one from Sierra Leone, whose work that I find really inspiring when it comes to this topic of creativity and problem solving. So I have videos from them. I would like you to listen to the kinds of initiatives and projects they are looking at, because I think that in conversations like this, we need to take the practical approach in order to really have things that we can engage with and think about and reflect on, even as we come up with our own approaches to these things. So
I live in Kenya at the south parts of the Nairobi National Park. Those are my dad's cows at the back, and behind the cows, that's the Nairobi National Park. Nairobi National Park is not fenced in the south where I live, which means wild animals like zebras migrate out of the park freely. So predators like lions follow them, and this is what they do. They kill our livestock. This is one of the cows which was killed at night, and I just woke up in the morning and I found it dead, and I felt so bad because it was the only bull we had. My community, the Maasai, we believe that we came from heaven with all our animals and all the land for herding them, and that's why we value them so much. So I grew up hating lions so much. The Morans are the warriors who protect our community and the livestock, and they were so upset about this problem. So they killed the lions. It's one of the 6 lions which were killed in Nairobi. And I think this is why the Nairobi National Park lions are few. So a boy from 6 to 9 years old in my community is responsible for his dad's cows. And that's the same thing which happened to me. So I had to find a way of solving this problem. And the first idea I got was to use fire, because I thought lions were scared of fire. But I came to realize that didn't really help, because it was even helping the lions to see through the caution. So I didn't give up. I continued. And the second idea I got was to use a scarecrow. I was trying to trick the lions that I was standing near the cowshed. But lions are very clever. They will come the first day and they see the scarecrow and they go back. But the second day, they'll come and they say, this thing is not moving here, it's always here. So it jumps in and kills the animals. So one night, I was walking around the cowshed with a torch. And that day, the lions didn't come. And I discovered that lions were afraid of a moving light. So I had an idea. Since I was a small boy, I used to work in my room for the whole day. And I even took apart my mom's new radio. And that day, she almost killed me, but I learned a lot about electronics. So I got an old car battery, an indicator box. It's a small device found in the motorcycle, and it helps motorists when they want to turn right or left. It blinks. And I got a switch. I can switch on the lights on and off. And that's a small torch from a broken flashlight. So I set up everything. As you can see, the solar panel charges the battery, and the battery supplies the power to the small indicator box. I call it a transformer. And the indicator box makes the lights to flash. And as you can see, the bulbs face outside, because that's where the lions come from. And that's how it looks to lions when they come at night. The lights flash and trick lions that I was walking around the cowshed, but I was sleeping in my bed. Thanks. So I set it up in my home 2 years ago, and since then we have never experienced any problem with the lions. And my neighboring homes heard about this idea. One of them was this grandmother. She had a lot of animals being killed by lions. And she asked me if I can put the lights for her. And I said, yes. So I put the lights. You can see at the back, those are the lion lights. Since now, I've set up 7 bombers around my community, and they're really working. And my idea is also being used now in all over Kenya for scaring other predators like hyenas, leopards. And also, it's also being used to scare elephants away from people's farms. Because of this invention, I was lucky to get a scholarship in one of the best schools in Kenya, Brookhouse International School. And I'm really excited about this. My new school now is coming in and helping by fundraising and creating an awareness. I even took back my friends to my community, and we're installing the lights to the homes which don't have, and I'm teaching them how to put them. So 1 year ago, I was just a boy in the savannah grassland, herding my father's cows. And I used to see planes flying over, and I told myself that one day I'll be there inside. So, and here I am today. I got a chance to come by plane for my first time for TED. So my big dream is to become an aircraft engineer and pilot when I grow up. I used to hate lions, but now because my invention is saving my father's cows and the lions, we're able to stay with the lions without any conflict. Ashole, it means in my language. Thank you very much.
Okay, so that was an interesting video by a young man from Kenya called Kelvin. So I'm going to go ahead and play a second video by another young person, this time from Sierra Leone. He's called Kelvin. I think you would quite enjoy his experience as well.
Inventing.
Kelvin is extraordinarily talented. He literally goes to trash cans, finds broken electronic parts in the garbage, and makes stuff on his own.
He's taught himself how to do incredibly intricate things with very, very little resources.
In Sierra Leone, we have not too much electricity. Lights will come once in a week, and the rest of the month dark. So I made my own battery to power lights in people's houses.
Kelvin represents learn by making. He takes a part, looks at it, tries to reverse engineer it.
I made my own FM radio transmitter.
He made his own FM station because he wanted to give voice to the youth.
Starting out with any new project management software usually feels something like this. Where do you even start?
He made his own generator because he needed it.
The generator supply current to the radio station. This is the capacitor, and this is the spark plug.
This trip is his first time leaving his family's home. It's his first time leaving Sierra Leone, and it's tough, but it's an opportunity to create the future that he wants to live in. My name is David Moyne Nasenge. I'm from Sierra Leone. I'm a PhD student at the MIT Media Lab, where we have unlimited creative freedom. I wanted to ensure that young people like Kelvin also had this experience.
David has written visa letters, found places for Kelvin to stay. He's really got invested in him.
For quite many years, Sierra Leone and many other African countries receive aid, but it does not necessarily get us anywhere. We are not looking into the future. We are not designing our own future. Unless we have a host of young people who can think at any given point that here's a challenge, this is a problem, but it's an opportunity to solve it, there won't be a steep growth in national development.
If we have a radio station in my community, the people can be able to debate about issues affecting our community and Sierra Leone as a whole.
I first met Kelvin at the Summer Innovation Camp that I run in Sierra Leone that challenges kids to think about the toughest problems in their community and have them solve it. Kelvin's team applied to build an FM radio station for community empowerment. People listen religiously to his radio station. People text into his show and he reads the text from people. It's very inspirational.
I'm DJ Focus, alright, broadcasting all the way near Boston. People normally call me DJ Focus in my community because I believe if you focus, you can do your invention perfectly. I DJ every day. Alright, for sure, for the meantime, don't forget DJ Man Focus passing through. Soundtrack done by Bobby. Upon Sierra Leone artist. Your satisfaction is absolutely guaranteed for your ultimate priority.
So Kelvin has been in the United States for the past 2 weeks. I lined up a pretty busy schedule for him. First, we went to New York. The next day, we were in Cambridge. Next week, we have a talk with the president of Harvard University.
It's a big opportunity for me to learn from people who have experience and to meet with them.
How do you want the antenna?
Like this.
Like that?
Yeah.
All right. Kelvin had these RF transmitters that he had made, and we spent yesterday kind of trying to figure out how we might be able to make some improvements. All right. Hopefully that's big enough.
Have you ever used a drill like that before?
Yeah.
You be careful with it.
Yeah. We use this as the power cable.
Okay.
This was a microphone wire converted to a power output. I got the cable from the dustbin.
Let's give it some audio. Cool. We kind of get trapped in our own little worlds. And just as Kelvin's getting his world expanded by coming here, so am I getting my world expanded by interacting with him. Good working with you, dude.
Yeah.
He loves to work hard, but he's a kid. He's 15. After a while, he also just want to play ping pong. He also just want to play football. I talked to him. I said, look, Kelvin, think of me as your older brother. All right, I'm tired. Tell me what's going on. Tell me what's tough to you. It's his first time leaving Sierra Leone, so it's overwhelming.
It's just that I miss Sierra Leone.
In Sierra Leone, if you meet somebody head to head, you have to say hi. You acknowledge them and smile. Here, when he gets on the train, he says hi to people. Nobody recognizes it.
And also, I don't love the food in America.
We're here to eat some Sierra Leonean food Kelvin loves, so it's gonna be awesome. What are you gonna get, Kelvin?
Cassava leaf.
Cassava leaves. Let's see if they have some. Come. How are you, Auntie? Oh.
I have beans, okra, cassava leaf.
Maybe.
Oh,
Thank you.
You want to try me plantain? Take. He misses home a lot.
I miss my family so much, especially my mother. Hello? Yeah, it's fine. How are you? My mother, she was so excited because people send good comments about me. Mama.
Hello?
I want to help my family to provide the facility for them. Hello? Yes, Didi. Just my family. Okay, bye.
For Kelvin, his biggest challenge is going to be the scarcity of the materials and the information once he goes back. Here, he can go in and pick up a resistor or whatever he wants. He now understands that there are many people who don't have to go to the garbage, so he has to go back.
Whatever thing I've learned, yeah, I will share it with my friends, colleagues, loved ones, and do it as a team.
He's done an amazing work, but that's just the beginning.
My next invention will be a windmill for the people to use for electricity supply.
I want there to be many more Kelvins. I do not want it to be a one-off thing. It's a movement. It's how do we create thousands of young people who are inspired by making stuff and solving the problems that are in their neighborhood.
That is my aim, to promote innovation in Sierra Leone among young people.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
That was very inspirational. I hope the students really listen to that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, so those are the stories of two young people in Africa who have backgrounds similar to you, from Kenya and from Sierra Leone. And this is their journey with being creative and solving problems in their communities. Now, the reason why I brought these videos is just to show you that, you know, people of your age or people even younger are able to do amazing things in the face of limited opportunities. I tell you, there are lots of people like Kelvin and Richard in Ghana, all over Ghana. I'm sure many of you have heard of the young man, for example, who built a car from scrap parts, the young JSS graduate who built the car from car scraps in Ghana recently. So there are lots of people like this. By the way, Kelvin's mentor is currently the Minister of Basic and Secondary Education in Sierra Leone. So you can imagine how his contribution will be to the educational sector there. So I put together some questions that might be interesting for you to think about and to discuss among your friends. When you think of Kelvin and Richard, what kind of lessons, you know, have you learned from, you know, their stories? You know, are they different from you? Are they similar to you? And also, when you think of, after listening to them, do you also think of like certain ideas that you have that you want to work on? And what do you think needs to happen for you to be able to work on these ideas that you have? So these are some questions that I think are interesting for you to think about and also to discuss with your friends.
I think there are so many important lessons in the stories of Richard and Kelvin's.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can associate myself a lot with Richard.
Mm-hmm.
Because I grew up in the village and I was a cowboy. I wasn't as smart as Richard though, but I think Richard really embodies a greater portion of the Ghanaian population. And sometimes we want big things to happen before we move.
We can barely hear you, please.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
It looks like they can't hear me.
With connectivity issues.
Oh man. All right, Noah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that is better. Thank you very much.
Okay. So I was saying that there are a lot of stories, I mean, good lessons we can learn from the two young men, the one from Sierra Leone, Kelvin, and the one from Kenya, Richard.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a cowboy, so I can relate more to Richard's story.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saying that, you know, sometimes we complain a lot about how things are not working and how the whole world is against us, instead of actually doing things to show the world what we can do. So in Richard's case, instead of Richard sitting there and complaining about why the lions are eating up the few cows they have for the family, instead of sitting there and waiting for government to come and save him and his family, he decided to save himself and his family.
Yeah.
And so sometimes little things we can do are within our control. Once you begin to help yourself, it turns out that that kind of thought process brings along people who think like you. So because Richard was able to get up and literally figure out a system that will create an atmosphere for himself, his family, and the lions to coexist, he has found voice just by doing that. Just by doing things on his own and not waiting for Aban to come in and do it for him. So the challenge to all of us is, what is it that we can do with what we have? Sometimes we want to wait to do things if somebody else comes to help us. But given what you have, what can you do with it? That is the story of Richard.
Yeah.
And I think we can all associate with that. Yes. So currently, as students, you are about to write your SSCE. You are going to go out of school into the community and hopefully into higher institutions of learning. What can you do right now to help yourself instead of waiting for somebody to help you? Maybe you can go back to your village. There are people who they don't have a good source of drinking water. They don't have electricity, just like in Richard's case, and even in Kelvin's case. So can you build something for your community? There are women and children who are pounding maize and millet every day. Can you design something that can help them to do that? There are people who are trying to farm. They're trying to find creative ways of farming and preserving their farm produce. Can you create something so that they can be able to preserve their farm produce so that things don't rot because they don't have what it takes to send the produce to the market right away? So there are so many things, even within the school itself. You people are sitting on chairs and tables that are broken. So instead of taking the broken chairs and throwing them away and hoping that somebody will come and do another table and chair for you, what if you people came together and fixed the table yourselves? What if you did that? You have so many waste materials from the school by way of the things that you create from eating and books and stuff like that. What if you were able to design something that recycled the waste? What if you could do that? This is how millionaires and billionaires are built. They come up with ideas, and before you know it, somebody comes up and sponsors your idea. They invest in your idea. So in the case of Richard, he is now going to be a millionaire, if not a billionaire, because people see the vision he has. And so people are going to pump money into, now he's in the best school, they are going to pump money into his investment, and he can expand. And right now, the whole of Kenya, it's all written Richard, 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 right? In Kelvin's case, he's, I don't know, 10 or 12 years old. He's already in MIT. Right? He's now a millionaire because he had one idea that people are now interested in pursuing. This idea not only helps Kelvin and his family, but Sierra Leone and the African continent, because there are so many areas in Africa, even within Accra, big cities, we're not even talking about village, even big cities, where electricity is an issue. Dumso. Oh, and by the way, we had Dumso yesterday, right? So this is an opportunity for critical thinking. And I thank Gameli for these videos because they just emphasize the concept we are trying to promote in the school and hopefully extend it beyond the school, that all the chew and pour, the ABCD that we do all the time, they are meaningless unless we can take those into contexts that are able to transform human suffering. Otherwise, our education will be meaningless. We want you to be able to challenge the status quo. We want you to be able to say, we are doing things the old way and things are not moving. And so how then can you help yourself by not waiting for somebody else to come and help you first? What do you need to make you begin to help yourself? I think what you need is this kind of forum, this kind of encouragement to tell you that you don't have to be the Minister of Health before you help Ghana. You don't have to be the President of Ghana before you help Ghana. You can be you and do something to help Ghana. So thank you, Gameli, for sharing these 2 videos.
Yes, thank you very much. Please, my presentation is not over. I want to,
yes.
Can I continue?
Continue, please.
Noah?
Yeah.
It's okay to continue.
Yes, Ivan is also around, so I think we'll give him the chance to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. But we planned for a 2-hour session, and so I just played these videos to give the students a certain context, help them put some questions on their minds for the presentation. So I still have a few slides. I will just go through them quickly.
Okay, that is all.
All right. Thank you very much, Zach, for your input into the videos. I think this is fantastic input, and really pretty much covers a lot of the things that we will be discussing. So I just wanted to, since we are talking about creativity and problem solving, I just wanted for us to have a quick review of what creativity is. Creativity is basically turning new and imaginative ideas into reality. When you have a new idea, what is your ability to be able to make that idea happen in real life? That's an aspect of creativity. And so there are lots of tips that one can follow in order to be more creative. For example, having a mentor. If you want to work on certain types of projects, you need a mentor to guide you, to show you the ropes, so that you can be able to realize it. The person will also give you certain ideas. Sometimes when we say mentor, it's not necessarily someone who is far older than you. It can even be a colleague to exchange ideas with. In the video that we watched, for example, you realize that Kelvin had a mentor. That was David, and David helped Kelvin to do his projects and gave him opportunities. For example, another thing that it's also important for us to look at is to allow ourselves to make mistakes. So if you looked at a video, the one with Richard, he came out with different things like setting a fire and all kinds of things to try to get the lions to go away, but then they didn't succeed until he finally came up with the idea of the moving light. So allow yourself to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to try something, otherwise you will not be creative. The final point that I think will also be interesting to take note is to ask new questions. When you want to be creative, you cannot go about always thinking along the lines that you always think. You have to put yourself in a mind frame where you think differently, you ask different questions, you try new things in order to be able to boost your creativity. Some quick tips on problem solving. When we talk of problem solving basically has to do with how do you overcome challenging situations? How do you overcome challenging situations? And in problem solving, we use a particular framework called design thinking. The design thinking approach, it's very important for us to when we are trying to solve problems. On the slide here, we have a graphic which gives 4 steps, but it's actually more detailed than this. One is that you have to define the problem. What is it that I'm trying to solve? What are the other issues affecting this problem that are not so obvious to the eye? You have to really understand the actual problem, get to the bottom of it, do something we call root cause analysis to be able to get to the bottom of it. And so having identified what the main problem is, then you go ahead to come up with ideas. Don't come up with one idea. You have to come up with so many different ideas. Think about them critically together with your colleagues, and then decide that some of the ideas are not really feasible or they are not very good. So you discard them and then move forward with a few of those ideas. Having generated new ideas, then you actually go out and try the ideas out, try to implement them. And then based on how well the implementation goes, you may want to review what you have done. So these are like basic steps when it comes to problem solving. So like I said before, design thinking is a way of coming up with a systematic approach to creatively solve problems. So yes, the details of design thinking have been projected here in front of you, but the key steps, like I said, is first of all, what is the problem I'm trying to solve? Understanding the problem. If you are solving a problem for yourself, or if you are solving a problem for other people, you also have to make the effort to understand the people that you are trying to solve the problem. And then you can really capture what the problem is. The next component, which is also very important, is the prototyping stage, which is that, first of all, how do I design a certain solution? One, you have to come up with the ideas, like I mentioned, and then move ahead to try out some of the ideas. Then finally, you should be able to test, and then based on how the testing goes, you come back again and then improve the idea. Then you test it again, improve it, and then finally you go ahead and implement either the product or the service or whatever you come out with on a big scale. So this is simply what design thinking is. And if you look at design thinking, those of you who study the sciences, you realize that it's very similar to the scientific method. Whilst the scientific method is so much focused on understanding nature, understanding the problems and challenges, and understanding how things work, design thinking looks at it from the other end, which is that, okay, now we know a few things. How do we actually use those things to solve problems and get things done? So it's just, they are like two sides of a coin. So I encourage you to spend more time to learn about this process and implement it in whatever you do. So I just want to finally share some quick points on 3 values, the values that I mentioned about our community global lab. It's very important that as students, and also even when you finish school and then you start working, to continue learning, because the world is changing. What we consider to be valid knowledge keeps changing every single time. So you have to have a learning mindset to be ready for the world that we live in and the world that's going to come tomorrow. And I mentioned 3 skills that are like very important to everybody, which is that no matter what career you end up with, 3 skills are very critical. So note them and start working on these 3 skills. Leadership skills, very important, because every time you will work with people, you will get different people to come together to carry out a particular task. How do you go about it? It's through leadership. Data literacy, very important, because there's so much data. You know, how many people are in your school, how many people are in which class, how many people are likely to pass their exams. If you look at the context of COVID-19, every time when you go to the Ghana Health Service website, you see how many people have received the vaccine, how many people have the virus, how many people were tested. Understanding how data works and how data can help you to take decisions, very, very important. Another skill that it's of value, no matter the profession you find yourself in, is storytelling. How do you tell a story? How do you sell something to somebody? How do you sell an idea to people that will be compelling, that they will find really interesting to follow you? So this ethos of always learning, always connecting is very important, because ultimately, if you want to attract the right opportunities in your life, like we saw in the case of Kelvin and Richard earlier, you have to be able to show something for it, and that comes from a culture of learning. So I already mentioned 3 skills that I think are very valuable when it comes to learning. That's so much has been said about what is called the 21st century skills. So learning skills shows up again, the 4 C's: critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, very important. Literacy skills. Remember, I talked about data literacy, information, media, and technology, very important. And then what we call the life skills, which is flowing from leadership, initiative, your ability to be flexible, also equally important. So please take note of these skills, very important to put you in a competitive position. Then I also talk about friendship. I put logos here of different organizations and different projects and initiatives I've been involved in. When I use the word friendship, of course, I'm talking about how you connect with your colleagues in your school. But beyond that, I'm actually talking about networking. How do you build relationships, collaborations, and networks with people that will be very helpful to your own, life or your own operations? So if you don't have a mentor, try to find someone who can mentor you, who can advise you. But not just about mentors, but also forming strong relationships with people who are your colleagues that you can always work together with, or you can always collaborate with. The clubs that you join in school, how are these clubs helpful to you in terms of helping you build the skills you need to build, and in terms of helping you to be ready for the future that, you are trying to build for yourself. So these connections or these networks are very important. Without networking, for example, you will not have the opportunity for someone like Noah and Zach to organize this session that we are enjoying today for you to benefit for tomorrow. Because if they were not part of the Armed Forces secondary school family, this opportunity would not have opened up for you. So very, very crucial. Then we also talk about service. When I talk about service, harking back to what Zach said and what we learned from the videos, there are so many problems and challenges around us. But if we sit back and we complain about the problems will still be there. The problems will become bigger than they were before. And at the end of the day, we suffer. So we have to be able to move from complaining to trying to come up with solutions. So even as we have problems, there are certain tools that are disposal. For example, we have the internet, which contains so much information that all of us can learn. For example, we have people in our community who can serve as resources for helping us to gain knowledge in different things that we work on. And we have a lot of natural resources and all kinds of things that can help us to be able to address solutions. So I always say that we must use the tools we have to solve the problems we face. So when the tools and the problems come together, then we start working our way towards solutions. So very important to have that mindset. And so service means that understanding that you are part of a certain community, you are part of a certain society, you are part of a certain school, and therefore you should be ready to contribute to addressing the issues in that system. That is what makes you, that's your civic duty to your country and your city and your community. Very, very important. And so you ask yourself that, where are the opportunities? What can I also do to make a difference? And I'm just listing these examples from my own background. I'm into education, environment and health, technology, and so I think that there are wonderful opportunities in these areas. For example, the energy sector, Ghana is always facing doomsday. How do we take advantage of the sun, or how do we take advantage of the wind, to generate electricity so that we create a more sustainable future for ourselves. Very, very crucial. Very, very crucial point to have in mind. I didn't put technology here because I always see technology as an enabler, a tool that can help us to address the issue. So irrespective of the background you find yourself in, you realize that what technology has a very big role to play. I also want to bring your attention to the Sustainable Development Goals. I'm sure many of you are already familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals. These are 17 goals that the UN put together just to help us to think of how do we address the challenges of our time in a systematic manner. So whenever I'm presenting to people, I tell them that adopt the goal, learn more about these 17 goals and identify which ones are very important or relevant to the work that you do. For example, I am interested in goal 17, partnership for the goals, because there's no way that we can do anything and be successful without partnering with other people. In fact, everybody should have goal 17 as part of their repertoire. But I, in particular, I'm quite passionate about goal 3, good health and well-being, goal 4, quality education, goal 11, sustainable cities and communities, goal 13, climate action. So these are some of the specific SDGs I am interested in. And of course, goal 10, also reducing inequalities. I'm sure that if you think of yourself, what you're interested in, what you are passionate about, you can be able to come up with which of the SDGs that you want to place more attention on, so that we can all contribute to a better world. Another agenda which is very important for us to take note of is coming from the African Union. They came up with this idea, I think somewhere in 2015, called Agenda 2063, which is that it's a plan, it's a strategy to help us build the Africa we want. And actually this came before the SDGs came. And if you look at Agenda 2063 and the SDGs, there are quite a number of similarities. But the good thing about the Agenda 2063 is that it is specifically tailored for Africa. And 2063 represents 100 years after the African Union, or the Organization of African Unity, which is the organization preceding the African Union, was founded. And so as Africans, how are we working to contribute to Agenda 2063? I know that some of these things, because they are coming from policy, they may sound very big and out of touch for you as students, but please take your time, read about these goals and topics, because this is the global system we are in. If you understand how these things are, what are the priorities, it will help you to decide what should you spend your time working on. And therefore, you end up developing relevant projects and initiatives that people will be willing to support. So I ask, what can you do? I'm just giving you 5 things that I think that if you want to act, you can do. For example, if you are very hands-on, you are very practical, you can make a product, like the way Kelvin built the radio station, or Richard built the device that scares the lions. You can make a product. If you are good at talking, then you can see yourself more as an advocate, or someone who promotes different initiatives. If you are good at teaching and coaching people and mentoring people, then how do you do something that can build capacity in your community? Of course, we need money to do everything. So this is also something that you can look at if you really want to make a difference in the world. How do you raise money for impactful initiatives? So I'm just sharing some pictures of some projects that Global Lab and our partners have been involved in, which is quite interesting. Not all these projects are from Global Lab, though. I also volunteer for other organizations that I'm part of. For example, in I think 2015 or so, we organized a Science Hack Day where we had people come, build their own projects. And this was organized by iSpace Accra. And at the end of the day, we had these young JSS students based in Kumasi who won the first prize because they developed a backpack that can charge phones. So it's a solar backpack. It was quite interesting, you know. This is Samuel and Perkins, you know. We've done digital literacy workshops, we've done post-high school training programs, etc., with organizations like Ghana Think Foundation, the Global Shapers, etc., etc. So, I mean, just to show you an example of things that you can do in your community. So, I've come to the end of my presentation, and I just wanted to share something which I think that it's quite inspiring when you think about it. And it says that knowledge is of two kinds. We know a subject ourselves, or we know where we can find information on it. So that's why sometimes when you're supposed to do something and then you're like, oh, I don't know anything about this. I mean, it's not a very good excuse. Okay, you either know it or what, you know where to find information about it. And where do you find information about something? You ask people, you read books, you use the internet, for example. And so knowledge is now in the hands of what? The people. So thank you very much for the opportunity to join you to make this presentation. Sorry, it took quite some time, but then I'll pause here so that my colleague Evans can also do his, and then we see what kinds of questions and discussions will come on. Thank you very much.